to episode 5, season 2 of In at Side, brought to you by ITS and the Dodger Sevens. My name is Hardman, joined by Star Neil and JK. And of course, it's Mr. Andy Deacon. How are you this evening, Andy?
Yeah, good, thank you. In these mad times, but yeah, I'm sort of like cracking on.
Yeah, thanks very much for coming on the show. So we'll just start, obviously, best place to start your career. So what sort of got you involved in the sport to start with?
Well, I never picked up, unlike most youngsters these days sort of thing, I never actually picked up a rugby ball until I was about 12, 13 sort of thing. And when I went to secondary school, and the PE master there was a guy called John Simonet, and he was actually the current number 80 at Gloucester at the time sort of thing. So he was really into his rugby, and he pushed it, and we sort of really had a great side, going through all of the school then sort of thing. So it was a good starting point from me, and then from there, my friends who live locally in Long Levens, they went to Long Levens Rugby Club straight after that sort of thing, 12, 13, and then we started playing for them for the junior section. They was quite their initiative at the time, really, because it wasn't sort of like everyone in the world then didn't have junior sections like they got now sort of thing. So it was quite unique at that time, and locally they were out there doing it. So we joined there, and as I say, sort of the rest is history. So I went from Long Levens to Gloucester, and ended up playing 15, 16 years and 300 odd games for Gloucester.
So how did that come about then, going from Long Levens straight to Gloucester, really?
It's pretty unspectacular these days, really, sort of thing, because now you go through academies and all, and you're headhunted maybe, and you maybe put in place or go through a school and stuff like that, and DPP and stuff, and all the different avenues there are. But it was the coach at the time at Long Levens thought I was good enough to sort of get a game there, and literally rocked up in pre-season, and then you trained all pre-season. And at the end of it, there's a Reds versus Yellows game, and it's just like World War III, really, sort of thing. If you get if you get through that, then you sort of like half a chance. And then in those days again, there was Gloucester, and then there was Gloucester United. So there's 2 fixture lists of 50 odd games each.
Wow.
So yeah,
you wouldn't get that these days, would you?
No, God, no. And you then sort of. I played for Gloucester United for a few games, then I went back to Long Levens because I couldn't get a game. Then I fluctuated between the two for about 18 months, and then I finally used to go. Then they used to send you to Wales on a Wednesday to play Pontypool in Cardiff and all the clubs down there, sort of thing.
That's always a tough game, isn't it? That's always a tough
game. And again, if you got through that sort of thing, you're another step of the ladder, really. And then you then the main aim then was to get a game for Gloucester in the Saturday side. And then luckily I progressed to that, and played all my career at Gloucester was in two halves, really. It was in amateur and professional. I sort of like 7 years amateur and 8 years of professional, just over. So I was lucky in that respect. Again, the transition from amateur to professional it was a difficult one when there's a lot of people around you who wasn't making it, and there wasn't who you knew you played for, and they were your friends because they were all local lads, and the game was changing when that professionalism kicked in.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to ask. That change, because obviously you were there at the turn at the time. What was the major changes that you saw? Was it just there was more money being pumped in?
Creaking pay packet.
I worked at Whitbread's at the time, and I was a drayman sort of thing, and I loved my job. I had young kids and stuff like that. I had the support, and luckily, my career went to when I finished when I was 39, sort of thing. So I had a long stint at it, and I never turned professional until I was 30. So I had a decision to make, and at that time, because of my age, they said we can offer you a year, and you had to take it or leave it, really, because everybody had to be professional. You couldn't be there part time. You had to be there full time. Right. So I just took the plunge, and after that, I had 8 more contracts year on year sort of thing too. So
what was it? So one day you just turned around and said, "Yep, I'm going professional," and then next day you packed in your job? Or
again, people ask me this question, a lot. It was again completely and out of the blue, really, there's this, the game going open. There's talk about it. It wasn't sort of like, like it is now. It wasn't sort of like out there as it, let's say, if it was on BT Sport or something like that. People wasn't talking about it. And literally a week before it happened, so this could be a possibility. Could you sort of do it? Could you ask your employer? And I said, I'll ask. And they said, on a sabbatical. I could have gone on a sabbatical, but I didn't. I never went back to Whitbreads, but and consulted my family, and they supported me. And then again, we went for it. And it was a life-changing decision.
It's mad to think of the transition in. Sorry, Tom. It's mad to think of the like you mentioned there, that back in the day, obviously, you didn't have rugby all over the telly, you didn't have BT Sport. There was only bloody 3 to 4 channels, and and the only thing, being a local lad myself, the only way you'd find out about rugby in the area is the Pink 'Un. You get a little magazine once a week and find out stuff like that. Do you think that rugby's going to keep going not the way of football, because that's just ridiculous, but do you see there being more money going into rugby? Because I think with this COVID recently, I think rugby has certainly struggled, certainly Championship down. I mean, even Premiership clubs, with everything going on, do you see longevity in rugby? Do you see any issues?
I see the longevity in it. I just see, it's like life, isn't it, sort of thing. I sell sportswear for Raging Bull as a living, sort of thing. So, what's it going to look like afterwards? We hope that the uptake is going to be massive because people want to get back to it, sort of thing. And so we're going to see a good upturn in sales, which is much needed at the moment, sort of thing. But I think every aspect of life may be slightly different, and rugby will be no different from that as well. I think will there be big money being thrown around like that before, like marquee signings and stuff like that? There's a lot to discuss, and I think ultimately it's the survival of the sport. That's what they're in at the moment. I think TV is a massive player in that, as it is in football. The actual competition has got to take place, and you've got to, finish the competition to get your money. So that's important as well. I think, I'm an internal optimist, sort of thing, that you hope that, when you come back out of it, you come back out of it stronger. I think it might take a while. I don't think, like I said, I don't think the money will be about like it was. And I think there'll be a lot of energy and a lot of emphasis on academies, and like in Gloucester at the moment, they're trying to put a lot of time and effort into young lads coming through, and local lads as well, which is encouraging. So, that could be a positive from it, especially at Gloucester point of view anyway. But fact is, it is unknown really. But if they can get through it as it is without crowds right now, and then when the crowds do come back, then you'd like to think, that they've turned the corner then.
Do you see everyone's chomping at the bit to get watching rugby again, aren't they? I mean, I think, I don't know about yourself, I'd watch an ant race an ant down the street right now just to get my sports fix. I'm really struggling, not to go to games and stuff and be in the shed and give some crap to the opposition. But going back to your career, obviously that you mentioned, played for Gloucester over 305 games for Gloucester. You're obviously captain as well for quite an extended period. There must be a certain game or a moment that really sticks in your mind, really, stands out for you. Is there a game or a moment where?
I think the defining game that everybody speaks to me about, sort of thing, that I've got pictures in my hallway, sort of, my house, was when I lifted the Power Jane Cup with my son Oliver, sort of thing. That was the one that defines me really, as after a long career, sort of thing, fighting to win some. I finally won some, and then around that period we were actually a few trophies, sort of thing, and that same season we was the only club to win the league and not actually win the that was the first year when we
watching it.
Yeah, we had to wait 3 weeks to play Wasp. We got smashed in the grand final. But prior to that, we beaten Northampton. Well, I noticed in one of the other podcasts, Gomez was, he played in that side with me, sort of thing. So, that was the best side I played with the Gloucester, sort of thing. That was the importance of the game as well, sort of thing. I played in a European Cup semi-final, sort of thing. I played in grand finals, so, but actually winning it as well. So it was, it was fantastic. There's 72,000 people in there, and it was. the colour, the noise, and I'm talking to the ground staff, after the game sort of thing, when we were just having a beer out on the pitch, and they said they've been at Twickenham for a very long time, and they've never seen nothing like that at that time sort of thing. And it was especially to have Oliver, my son, there sort of thing. He also plays at Long Levens. It was a very proud moment.
That's it. It's those memories stand the test of time, don't they? And I'm sure Dom will remember the score. Dom lives not far from Northampton. I think he sort of is this sort of second supported club.
Yeah, but what year? Yeah, but what year was that?
2000, 2003.
Yeah, just about to say.
Yeah, I was like 5 years old.
All right, don't rub it in. Do not rub it in.
You're Matt, Neil. So obviously, looking at kind of current Gloucester, obviously we've looked at how the team were back then. They're having a bit of a shaky start to the season. Do you think? What do you think is going on there? Is it the current situation, or do you think the other teams have really pumped something in that's different, or what's going on?
I think we could do a whole podcast on currently sort of thing. Let alone.
Oh, trust me, Neil definitely could. Neil definitely.
Yeah. Trying to get why and how at the moment about Gloucester sort of like into 5 minutes is difficult, but I think the George Givington they got in there, and Alex King and the young coaches coaching team, the English coaching team that they got in there. I think that's the way to go. I think I was speaking to George Givington. He's an honest, hard-working guy, and he knows it.
Yeah.
And what he wants, but it's going to take time. Gloucester, this is not the problem. Is not this problem. What Gloucester got currently is not George Givington's problem. This problem's created some 12, 15 years ago, when sort of like different managers or different CEOs, different director of rugby came in. 3 years gone, 3 years. Another one came in. Another 2 years gone, 3 years, and they've never had anyone sort of through the professional era that is sort of like being there stable for a long period of time. And in sport, you look at anything that's been successful, someone's been there for a long time. Baxter at Exeter, he's the leading light in the game sort of thing. And the model that how he does it sort of thing. They're trying to put that. I think I was talking to George Givington, and they're trying to definitely copy that or mirror that in some elements, with sort of about the community, being attached to the community. He would like a big type 5 that are big, that are bruising, that will dominate opposition. And he sort of like then his game plan will start from there, and you can see that with the signings that he's made. I think he's been astute in the market so far, but it takes time. He was employed in COVID, so he was the only guy that's been employed in COVID. And they're still in COVID now, period, sort of thing. And some weeks he doesn't have anybody in. It's been so disjointed. It's been difficult for him. And whatever happens with Gloucester, you got to stick with these people now. I think that would be my party line. That I write a column in the local paper, Deac's Week, sort of thing. And I was talking about this week exactly about this subject, that it's pointless just sort of like ripping it up and start again, because it will not matter. It's all about breeding a culture that is right, and making sure that the people that they sign buy into that culture, sort of thing. And Danny Cipriani is a fantastic player. He won games for Gloucester single-handedly, but also on the flip side of it, he lost games for Gloucester as well, sort of thing.
He's a loose cannon at times. That's
definitely. I was going to mention Sips in the sense of what do you think, in your personal opinion, happened there? Do you think it was just a falling out between him and the
I don't think it was a falling out so much. I think it was more to do with sort of like, even though Skivington and Cipriani are friends, sort of thing, and I think it was just because Cipriani wants to be such a focal point of most things, what's going on the field, off the field, and have a massive input into it. I believe that they've just come to a position where the Gloucester's game, it was going to be a bit more pragmatic. It's going to be a bit more direct, and it's not going to be a bit like loose. And Cipriani having the run of the show that Ackerman gave him, and I think it was really came to that. And I think in his personal life, he's had some issues as well, sort of thing, leading up to it the end of last year. And I think they said that they split amicably, and I believe that they did. And but I think it's just a different opinion in play rather than. There's no doubt in Cipriani sort of, on front football that he can hurt anyone, sort of thing. But
unbelievable. I mean, some of the best rugby I've seen, creative attacking rugby came from him. But like you say, it can go one of two ways. He can look like brilliant. He's made a blooming 3-man miss pass and scored a try, or he's tried a 3-man miss pass and they've intercepted or whatever. But it was the fact that he was there willing to try it. It was just exciting, to see the rugby we were playing. Being a Gloucester fan all my life, it was really buzzing to see.
I think Skivington's going to go back to the core foundations of what Gloucester is about. That he's going to go back to a big prac. That's what he wants, and he's going to go to a 9 and 10. That's going to put him in position, and they're going to be very sort of like territory orientated, big guys running the big guys. Which some say, well, but is that where they go? But I think that wins you games. It wins you more games than it loses. And then if he gets to that point, and then as time goes on, hopefully, like we talked about the COVID and stuff like that, the finances are right, he will be able to put a bit more stardust in it to
Well, I think even so, the backline's pretty star-studded as it is. To be fair,
yeah, exactly, yeah. And people say about Gloucester as well that if you look at Gloucester on paper, they got a good side. But I think something. I think that they're 8, 9, 10 sort of like Ackerman. Sort of I don't think Joe Simpson's the pair he was. Chapman, the younger guy there, sort of thing. And then you got Lloyd Evans, and below him you got Tom Barnes, sort of thing. It was sort of 1920. So he's short in those areas. I think they're missing. The player they miss is Willie Hines massively. And the other player that they miss is Ben Morgan at 8. He can make a difference. Then you got Willie Hines at 9, and then if you have that more sort of like go forward off 8 off a pickup, then it does give the Lloyd Evans a bit more time and a better pass off Hines. Then gives it more time, and then at the end of the day, you would see a better Evans as well. That 8-9 axis at the moment is where the issue is.
Yeah, nice. It's interesting.
Tell you what, that's got to be the most in-depth and knowledgeable answer we've ever had on this podcast.
I was about to say that's
good.
Do you mean it's boring there?
No. Honestly, it's amazing to hear you actually talk like that. Like someone to talk like that. I think it's bloody great.
Yeah.
Neil obviously loved it as well because he's a world's biggest Gloucester fan.
I didn't know Neil was a Gloucester fan. I've never heard him talk about Gloucester ever.
Have you not?
No. Never heard him mention the shed once.
I think I mentioned it in every podcast. I think I've got it to every single one of them.
Right, okay. So go on then, Neil. You carry on.
No, I was just going to ask, you mentioned the shed, JK, so I thought I may as well ask a question about it. The first time... Can
I guess what the question is?
I know from experience, obviously, being in the shed, it can be very fickle. 1 week you're having the game of your life and the whole shed's chanting your name. The next week, they could be absolutely slating you or that sort of thing. We spoke to a lot of guests that play for different clubs, and a lot of them, without me having to prompt it, and you guys will have to admit this, have said that Gloucester's one of the worst, as an away player, Gloucester's one of the worst stadiums to play at because you get a lot of shit from the shed. In your opinion, what was the worst ground you ever played at in that sense, like where you knew you were going to get some shit today?
Any ground in France, in say the France sort of thing, you're going to get it. You get, you could get spat at, you could get something thrown at you. You'll get, I presume that it was foul language, but I didn't actually understand it. But it sounded, and the people who were shouting it didn't look very happy. Anywhere in Wales like that, they all sort of like give you a bit of beef. Locally, anywhere sort of in Coney or Matson, anywhere like that, you're going to come up against it, sort of thing. So, and I've done all the levels. So, it's a case of, again, that makes you player that you are. If you can put up with it and operate in different environments to the best of your ability, then that makes you sort of like bit better than the player that can, I guess. You always, don't get me wrong, you always went into places with trepidation, but as soon as you sort of like crossed the white line, you were sort of like, you seemed all okay, like, do you know what I mean? There's a lot of, even, when you, like, say you play again, 30, 40,000, 60,000 people sort of thing, and people say you lose it, you do lose the noise, you do, because it's a weird thing, sort of thing. And then say there's an injury and then it stops, and then the crowd like that, then you sort of like come step back because you just take your foot off the gas a bit, sort of thing, with the concentration, and then you can just feel it and enjoy it. Going back to that Paragene Cup final, when you know you're going to win a game, and you're playing the game, that is a lovely feeling. And we was we sort of like put a few on Northampton, and you knew, 15 minutes out, you're going to win this game.
Yeah.
And then you then started to like really enjoy it, sort of thing, and you could then just enjoy the crowd a bit more, sort of thing. Firstly, when you know you're going to lose and you're getting a bit of bird as well, that's you got to take it and suck it up.
That's the side. Yeah. Well, I generally was in the crowd that day as well. It was a brilliant day. I can't remember much after half time, if I'm completely honest with you. We drunk a 24 crate each before we got there. We had to finish
each. Oh, that's such a lie. That is such a lie.
They wouldn't let us take
eyebrows.
We were drinking from 9 a.m. We travelled from Gloucester, drinking on a coach from 9 a.m. all the way up there, and we probably had about 10 cans left each when we got there. We had to neck them just because they wouldn't let us come in with the cans. So you
had to neck them. So can you remember the final score?
Here we see things that.
What was the final score? Did you say, Dom? It was 40-22, mate.
Is that what it was?
Dom, go and do a fact check.
That's a good question. I can find out. It's on my wall in the hall. I look at it every day.
40-22. I've still got the ticket stubs somewhere at my mum's. I used to save all the ticket stubs, the matches I used to go to. I used to go to Gloucester with my grandpa and stand in the shed as well every week. That's one of the fondest memories as a kid, and that's what got me hooked in rugby.
We need to do a drinking game every single time the shed gets mentioned by Neil on our podcast. We'd have to take a shot. Would be.
I got some orange here. That'd be racing.
We'd be knackered.
Okay. Coming back to present day, obviously back where it all started. How did that come about? How's things now? Obviously, grassroots.
I left Gloucester, and from Gloucester I went to Cinderford. One of my good friends, Pete Glanville, who's been a Gloucester captain, he was a teammate of me at Gloucester. He was director of rugby there, and I was sort of like finished with it, really, as in sort of like playing and stuff like that. They had a bit of an injury crisis. They said, "You fancy a game?" sort of thing. So I went out to Cinderford, and again, sort of like 10 years later, I walked back out the door, sort of thing. So I was like player, coach, director of rugby. So I pretty much did it all there. With a great side, we've got promoted into National One, where they are now for the first time in their history. Whilst we was there, so that was a great achievement. And then then after that, I went to Cirencester, and I had 5 years at Cirencester. That was topsy-turvy. We got promoted, got relegated as well, sort of thing, twice. Real transitional period at the club at the time with players and stuff like that. A whole raft of players had left, a lot of youngsters, sort of thing. But yeah, they dug in well. I enjoyed it. Nice time at Cirencester. I enjoyed it, sort of thing. It's a different Gloucester as well, sort of thing. A different aspect, is way of looking at it as well, which is like some good guys. But I just I think I came to my end at Siren, where the guys wanted someone new. I wanted a new challenge, sort of thing, and we parted very amicably, sort of thing. And there was an opportunity there for me at Long Levens, and I thought, I'm 55 now, sort of thing, so I'm not going to get many more opportunities to do it. And I want to do it when I was young enough to sort of like to put everything into it. Mm-hmm. And and I know chairman there well, sort of thing. And my brother's played 500 games for Long Levens. My son's a current player at Long Levens. My nephew Martin, he's playing as well, sort of thing. So it is a bit of a family affair. And
nice.
But like Skivington, I've only been at Long Levens in COVID. So as yet, it's been a not a struggle, but it's just been a bit different, and you can't do what you want to do. Basically, that's the bottom line with it all.
Have you had to adapt, sort of digitally? Are you giving the lads tasks to do and stuff whilst they're in lockdown on like Zoom?
No, I keep thinking that because it's in the groups and stuff like that. I try to spark a conversation sort of thing with them, but it generally always goes back to sort of like a drinking game or a fight or sex. So It never sort of like, when I'm watching Gloucester, I put out questions, what do you think of that decision? And somehow they twist it back round with a bit of banter or something. But I think when it's like this, it's so difficult to engage, when we was actually, we trained all the way through this, whereas every time we could, we trained sort of thing. And we always had 35 plus players sort of thing. You know, one night we had 58 players. So, you know, we was actually flying. You know, if there was one time you needed a season to start, it was this one.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And it didn't happen. I don't think it's going to happen again. And then I arranged with other clubs, like a cluster league with local clubs, and that was all set up. That was ready to go, which is meant to start this Saturday. Again, obviously that's been pulled, but we might get a few games in at the end. But I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Well, it's tough times, isn't it? I mean, it must be really challenging having to like adapt and things like that and try and keep players fit and motivated, I suppose. Have you had any players go to other sports? I mean, I know players that have literally just stopped playing rugby, JK, and gone to different sports altogether.
Whoa, I have not stopped playing rugby. I have just changed my focus slightly for now. I will always be a rugby player.
So what, JK? What is your focus on then?
So I'm currently doing MMA. So my professional if you really want to know, because Neil gladly brought
there we go.
My professional status.
You're not angry I brought this up, though, are you, JK?
No. So I'm now classed as a professional MMA fighter currently. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Sports really struggling through COVID.
No, it's really helped me during COVID because the training's slightly different within the gym normally. It's 2 meters distance, but we've got the pad, we've got the bag there, we're indoors, we've got a teacher, and we can get on with it. During lockdown, it's kept me focused because otherwise I'd be screwed because it was 2 days a week is not enough for me. It's really not. So obviously I've still then got the gym that I can go Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays. And I've lost 3 stone in that time, and I'm probably fitter now than I've ever been because I've changed my focus slightly. I'll always be a rugby player. I've been rugby for 21 years. Yeah, 21 years now. I don't think I'll ever stop playing rugby, otherwise I'll probably die. But it has helped me.
Well, God, have you had to sort of try and convince players not to give up rugby?
No, I think no, because like I said, you know, we had a good uptake, you know what I mean, for the last lot of games again. So I think, you know, the players there was, and I have been talking to players, ex-players and stuff like that. But it's a case of, I think rugby players, when there's no rugby, they accept it sort of thing because they have to. There's no other way. There's difficulty sort of thing. And but I'm always sort of thinking, you know, in the group and stuff like that, when it goes into lockdown, I'm mindful of saying that, you know, if anybody wants any help, you know, mentally and stuff like that, or if it's financial, or if there's food or anything like that sort of thing, they can always private message me, and the club for sure will do their best. Will do their best to sort that out.
Obviously getting to keep fit. I'm guessing you've planned out the fitness and say, look, if you want to carry on. This is again, sort of like we got a gym at the club sort of thing. So they, you know, you used to be able to use the gym if, you know, in certain tiers sort of thing, which that was good. You know, you say about training sort of thing from the last lockdown in March. You know, I was my longevity in rugby, I believe, was through that. I trained well. I love training. I enjoy training for a prop forward as well. And I quite like running. You know, which is, you know. This is not sort of like fashionable to say if you're a prop, but it is sort of thing. But it was, and I was half about me in good nick all the way through, and I think that's what kept me to the age I went. And then I went through a period where, you know, I played National 1 rugby till I was 44. So I actually I went through a period of like of not training, and I didn't do anything, and I topped the stones at sort of 20 stone, like, do you know what I mean? And it was getting out of hand, like, and so in March, when the first lockdown came, I said to my son, sort of thing, you know, I want to do something like, and I've lost a stone and a half. I go out every other day, 5K runs, and that's my bag now. That's what I do, and I'm in a groove of doing it, sort of thing, and I feel totally different from it. You know, I really do, because my son now, he bangs out 10K for fun, sort of thing. And he's done half a marathon, and he's just trail running and all the rest of it. But and he says to come with him to a bit longer, sort of thing. But I think my body will stand 5K because that's what it does, sort of thing, and it just keeps me at that level, and I can just do it. And I go on the same run, and you know, he thinks I'm nuts because I keep going on the same run and just doing the same thing. But that's how I am, and that's how I enjoy it, sort of thing. So, and I've encouraged the guys to do that as well. That, you know, just to get out, stuff like that. If it's walking, if, you know, some of the bigger lads, stuff like that, then you know, just get out and
you mentioned
as much as you want.
Yeah, well, you mentioned walking there. I wanted to kind of almost interject there. Obviously, we promote mental health awareness with Dodger Sevens heavily. You obviously did a walk for mental health awareness and to raise funds recently. Tell us a little bit about that. Who was that for? What was the
it came. I met a guy at Cirencester. He was a grenadier guardsman sort of thing, and he came out and he was having mental health issues sort of thing, and I met him a couple of times and would say, he was a good guy, he's a friendly guy, he's on the booze, we had a crack like in a rugby club, as everyone does, and but then he started posting things about mental health sort of thing, that he was sort of like, he was attempted suicide or tried to attempt suicide, and one of his best friends, two of his best friends had died in the forces of suicide as well, sort of thing. So it was all going off, and then one day he was posted, I'm going to do a 27-mile walk for his friend who passed away, and he said, if anybody out there wants to help or whatever. And that day I just said, I just private messaged him saying, when do you want to go? I'll come with you, sort of thing. And I got some t-shirts done from Raging Bull, which is we set up a little online shop for him, sort of thing, which raised a bit more money. And then from the phone call on a Monday to the following Wednesday, and just a bit after that, so we walked 27 miles, and it's a case about walking tour sort of thing. It's that about mental health sort of thing, which we did. And it was brilliant, and it was pretty relaxed and exactly what they wanted, sort of thing. And then asked me to be slightly bit of ambassador for it as well. So, and what I try to do is raise funds for people sort of like it's like disabled, where you got first aiders, but first aiders who's qualified in mental health in the workplace.
That's
that's our 2021 ambition and mantra.
So that is what they're trying to do, sort of thing, and they have done, and then in 9 days we raised £3,000.
Wow!
So,
awesome.
And then it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, I cut the points afterwards, and and it was really good fun, and and we've kept in touch now, and they want me to do this sort of mental health course sort of thing, but I don't think I'm quite ready for that right now, and it wasn't for me right now. I'm not saying I won't do it, sort of thing, but they're cool about that, and it was just a case of when you're ready, they would like me to do it, and every opportunity I got to talk about it, then I do, sort of thing. And that's
it's similar to what we're trying to do here at inside Dodger Sevens. Both of them, obviously, you guys are doing it in the workplace. One of the big things that we're seeing is a lot of rugby clubs don't have the skill set or the facilities at an amateur level to do that. So it's definitely the same as Don was saying for 2021. It's the big factor for us that we're going to be raising funds this year to do it, to put coaches and committee members or staff members within the clubs through that kind of first aid, because especially now more than ever, I mentioned it before, my mental health I would have probably exploded, not going to lie. And that's why I do regular fortnightly check-ins with these lads, and literally I do an 8-hour drive every 2 weeks. First thing I do is say, right, my line's open for 8 hours, call me. And it's that sort of thing that I think a lot more clubs are needing, and especially now more than ever. So that's definitely along the lines of what we're looking to do. So if you want to raise funds,
definitely. But also on that, I think one thing I noticed about coaching, especially out of the professional game, then, and I see obviously it applies to the professional game, but sort of like within the community, back in the old school days when the coaches used to bark at you and stuff like that, and call you all the names of their son, and you didn't think nothing of it. But in today's sort of youth, I don't think they're more sensitive. It's just because I think they're just more aware of it, or coaches got to be more aware of it, that they can't talk to people like that anymore because
you don't know what's going on.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I can lose my rag like the best of them in the change room and fire off. I think that's a bit different. That's like an air dryer treatment, or continually sort of bombarding people with negativity, which when they're trying to enjoy themselves in a community game, I think there's got to be a balance to it.
Exactly. And obviously you mentioned before about obviously swift moving on before we get to Neil's scenarios. You Raging Bull, obviously you're a big side of that things. Obviously I remember wearing Raging Bull when I was back with Ronin Warriors. Obviously a good few years ago.
Yeah. It was Amber and Canary and Royal, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. So but then we had also for the Mazars, we had the black and yellow as well.
Yes.
So I'm actually surprised.
Keep in touch. Keep in touch. I'll do you a great deal.
Well, we're actually looking for some shirts, and
well, there you go.
Not just shirts, Dan.
I knew there was a reason why I was sat here.
But no, it's a good kit. So if you obviously your kind of area of expertise, if you want to talk about that a little bit, and then we'll get Neil to do scenarios.
Yeah, it's just like when I came to professional rugby. One of my good friends, Phil Vickery, just started Raging Bull sort of thing, and I was working at the time for a guy who was the president of Long Lowes Rugby Club, and that's it, yeah. And
I was working for him as well, York Construction, yeah.
That's right, yeah. And then he then tried to buy some kit off Raging Bull sort of thing. Didn't have a great experience. And then he talked to Vix and said, but basically they needed investment. And then he became an investor sort of thing in it. And then I went from there to Raging Bull and stayed there ever since sort of thing. And we developed it. And Rich is no longer involved now sort of thing, or the president is no longer involved in it now. But that was 14 years ago sort of thing. So, and we've gone from strength to strength all over the years sort of thing. We got a sister company now called Hardman Sportswear, who sort of they do all our anything from sportswear that is not rugby and schoolwear stuff and that sort of thing. So, which has been a godsend in this sort of pandemic due to the fact that we can supply schools still.
Yeah, that's good. Well, with that, has it been more difficult for yourself? Have you sort of just switched to online, or have you felt a massive impact of COVID to the business side of things?
I think we've had to adapt massively, and different things that we've done. We've done some work where we've done some running where we've done some different stuff like that sort of thing. So we've done, like I say, schools, and we go right across the board into different things. We set up online shops for clubs and stuff like that, and in sports clubs, which has been a godsend really. One of our biggest, Doddy Weir and his foundation sort of thing, we supply them, and that's been great for us. And it's crazy because every time it goes on, so like Good Morning TV sort of thing, our online system nearly blows up because of all the people that buy everything sort of thing. So it is great for business, and he's a great guy, and it's a great charity. So we're privileged to be involved in that, and and that's again the reason why I love working for sort of Albro and Raging Bull, is the fact that you meet sort of like guys along the way that are like-minded people like that I played with, and it will be a teacher or a player or a captain. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like a job to me. It's sort of like a way of life, which is good to say.
Yeah,
brilliant.
On the name.
Well, I've got a couple of questions. Funnily enough, they're related to Gloucester. I'm going to ask you to throw a few players under the bus here that you played with at the time, right? Who was the biggest prankster at Gloucester? Who was the worst troublemaker?
Ludio Mercier.
Oh, really?
Straight in there.
Yeah, he's painful.
Right under that bus.
What was the worst thing he did? What was the worst thing he did?
Well, it was just daily sort of thing, like just pissing about moving your kit, and it wasn't one thing. He nagged at you. That's what I could say. It was boring as well. and his French humour didn't go down very well with somebody who comes from Gloucester.
I don't think anyone's French humour goes down very well with anyone.
And obviously, being at the club for so long, I imagine there must have been quite a few initiations down there. What was your initiation?
Oh God, I haven't got that good a memory. In those days, the initiation was just a drinking game sort of thing. The initiations there are a lot different sort of thing. I remember Jason Little. We came out training. Jason Little just turned up from a World Cup winning Australian centre, and they've they've got him in there, and he's put his. And we're all out training in the change room, but they've dressed him in a Gloucester kit for a photo shoot sort of thing in the press conference afterwards. And he had all his kit, but he hung his kit, because then you had to sit in the same spot. If anybody came in and got in your spot, your clothes was going. So So they basically filled up his brand new, lovely brown brogues with Vaseline, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then in those days you had big baths, sort of thing. You full up afterwards, and there was no ice cold baths then, sort of thing. It was lovely bubble bath sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then we just sort of like sat on the side of the bath and just pushed full of Vaseline, his two bros, out into the bath, sort of thing. So they was floating on top of the bath. So he came in afterwards. And he only lasted a year at Gloucester. I don't know why though.
I'm not surprised.
Just tantamount to bullying, but no, it's
yeah, exactly. Oh, there's plenty of that. Yeah, the bullying thing in Gloucester then was rife. You wouldn't get away with it now.
Well done for winning the World Cup. Good luck fishing out your stuff.
You got to give them some shit, haven't you? You got to give them some shit. And yeah, I mean, I normally do pretty weird scenario questions, but I mean, we'll do the one as we're now back in a lockdown. We're in the first lockdown, the first season. I pretty much asked every guest the same question. Now, if you're a lockdown for 2 weeks, okay, literally housebound, people are bringing you food, you can't leave the house at all, right? You've got to be on lockdown with one player that you played with, right? Who would make it an absolute living hell and why?
Mark Cornwall.
Right, okay. Why is that?
Bang! Straight away.
Straight in there.
Mark Cornwall, because he complains when everything's. If he won £1 million, he has to have complained about it that he didn't win £1,000,001. So he complains. I don't think he's very domesticated at the best of times, sort of thing. So he'd be useless in making food or doing any cleaning or anything like that, sort of thing. So it's got to be Pasty. Yeah,
And who would make it a dream? Who could you just breeze through 2 weeks with?
Yeah, I knew he was going to say that, and that's what I got.
No one surely.
I just have to say Tony Window then, sort of thing. Because Tony Windows, he was, very, very well, still is a very close friend of mine. So, and we got on really well as well. So, if you're going to be in a house with someone for 2 weeks, I guess the best thing you could do is get on with them. So we got on really well. So I'll go with Tony Window.
Can I just go back to just very quickly? Second name Cornwall, nickname Pasty.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
How great is that?
Love that. Original.
This is Gloucester, mind. This is Gloucester.
True. Oh, just a big thanks, Andy.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you.